Hot off the presses, we got news from Valve today, and that news has nothing to do with Deadlock. The news today indeed has something to do with acquiring a company, or developers from a company, from a popular game called Risk of Rain 2. Maybe you've played it. It's an FPS 3D shooter roguelike kind of game. It's like Binding of Isaac. You go around, you shoot enemies until they eventually kill you. You get power-ups and all that kind of good stuff. If you haven't played Risk of Rain 2, you should definitely check it out. And it usually goes on sale. If you got a Steam Deck, okay, pick it up for like $5 when it goes on sale. With that out of the way, we got news here on Twitter.com with Wario64 posting Hopoo Games, creator of Risk of Rain and Deadbolt, are now working on game development directly at Valve Software. Their unannounced game Snail has stopped production as a result of their partnership. Wario64 continues on here to quote Hopoo Games' official Twitter account. We're incredibly grateful to Valve for their partnership in the last decade and are excited to continue working on their awesome titles. However, this does mean that we are stopping production on our unannounced game, Snail. It's been an exciting, transformative 12 years. We feel lucky for the opportunities we've had and deeply appreciate both our team and fans that supported us and our games. We love making games and will continue to do so for years to come. We're excited to be working side by side with the talented people at Valve. But for now, sleep tight. Hopoo Games. So with that all being said here, we have Valve. It seems like Valve is getting manpower for their next game. I mean, they just released Deadlock in early access, mind you. People are still playing it, testing it out. And today, another move they're making here is acquiring the people who made Risk of Rain 2. So it seems like Valve here is creating new games. That obviously is the case here. You wouldn't acquire a bunch of developers if you weren't going to make a new game. The last time Valve acquired a company was in 2018. They acquired Firewatch's developer Campo Santo. Not so long after Valve acquired this company, they put out Half-Life Alyx, which is a VR-only game, which may not seem like a huge deal, but if you've been around the block here, if you've been playing Steam games for as long as I have back in 2004, a new Half-Life game is kind of a big deal for Valve, even if it isn't the highly anticipated Half-Life 3. So we know that Valve is working on a new game with these guys, and what could it mean? Are we going to get a Half-Life 3? And that begs the question, are we going to get a brand new series from Valve? Are we going to get a sequel? It doesn't seem like Valve is too interested on making a third game in a series. Half-Life 1, Half-Life 2, there's no Half-Life 3, there's no Left 4 Dead 3, there's no Team Fortress 3. It seems like Valve's one of those companies that would rather take a new direction instead of resurrecting old franchises. My personal opinion here is Valve is acquiring Hopoo Games for them to work on Deadlock. Risk of Rain 2 is a shooter, Deadlock's a shooter. It really just kind of makes sense and falls into place logically speaking, but I could be totally wrong, I could be totally off base. They could be working on Half-Life 3, but it just doesn't seem like that would be the company that they would acquire to work on such a huge, monumental game that people are wanting to play. And Valve doesn't want to get Half-Life 3 wrong. They don't want to get any game wrong. They haven't had a perfect track record, sure. The card game that they released was awful. But let's hope Valve has learned their lesson from that venture. I think that after that card game was released and it bombed, Valve kind of smartened up here and started making decent business decisions. Like, again, Half-Life Alyx was a really big hit. They released the Steam VR headset, which wasn't a huge hit, but it sold decently well enough. And we got the Steam Deck, obviously. It's one of Valve's best-selling things ever. So I think with this acquisition, I believe it's safe to assume that they're going to work hard on a new title or on an existing title, such as Deadlock, and they're going to make the game as best as they can. So with all this coming out pretty recently, I wanted to check out what the community on Twitter.com had to say about this acquisition. So the most liked reply here is saying that they're 100% helping Valve on their next single-player title. Another post here says, "Sentence to the MOBA and hero shooter minds, RIP Hopoo Games." Doesn't seem like a big fan of the news here. But I mean, I get it, that's understandable. You have these developers who have made a very specific kind of game. They've grown a huge fan base through Risk of Rain 1 and 2 as well. Especially 2. I started playing on 2. I never really played Risk of Rain 1. I think that might be the case for a lot of people who have tried Risk of Rain 2. They believe that, the Valve acquiring this company is going to kill any momentum that this indie company has going for them. That they're kind of being forced into a genre that they really don't want to make, but it seems like with the tweets above here, with the Hopoo Games official Twitter account, they seem to be pretty excited about working for Valve. And I think that, as long as the developers are happy over there, that we're going to get new games that are actually decent. Another post says, what does this mean for Risk of Rain 3? And the replies are, ask Gearbox, they own the Risk of Rain IP now, and that's true. So even if they wanted to make Risk of Rain 3, they would kind of have to stick with updating Risk of Rain 2 indefinitely. So we have here, Risk of Rain was a banger. I wonder if they get to work on Deadlock or nah. So this aligns more what I'm thinking of. I think that Hopoo Games is going to be probably working on Deadlock at first, and hopefully they'll branch off to some single-player games or other multiplayer games that they have in store. Whatever the case may be, guys, I really just hope that we do eventually get Half-Life 3. We've been waiting forever. It's been over a decade now, easily, since we got anything new from the Half-Life series, and Valve has been pretty quiet on actually releasing any kind of new trailers or news or any kind of teasers for the next Half-Life project. Maybe it won't be Half-Life 3, it could be another side project, and I would be happy with that, and I think a lot of people would be happy with that, as long as we get something new, just something in general. And Valve has taken the approach that they can release these SDK tools, right? So the fans of their games can create multiplayer experiences or single player experiences with the Source engine, and before that it was just the Gold engine. And Valve has been very open to fans creating their own projects, and I'm wondering if they're going to stay that route and have people create their own Half-Life experiences like we have with Black Mesa, the remake to Half-Life that Valve just gave their blessing to another studio and allowed them to make it. Either way, I think this is a really good thing. I think that if they can't make Risk of Rain 3, then the next best thing would be to partner with Valve. Hopoo Games has proved themselves to be excellent developers. Risk of Rain 2 is really good and very well optimized. That's all I got for you this time. Hit like, hit subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let's hit 6,000. I'll see you next time.